Valorant has updated to Unreal Engine 5 and it has silently nerfed some of you. But Riot also silently buffed Chamber. And if you want a silent buff, you should check out the brand new range of Zowie monitors. Thank you to Zowie for sponsoring this video.
Let's dig in.
Somehow it slipped out of the patch notes that Chamber's trademark no longer has a range restriction when placed. This is a huge change and was a key element to Chamber's glory days. His ability to aggressively take risks and push for space were kneecapped by him needing to keep his trip up by staying in range. Now he has freedom again to play wherever he wants, whilst tripping the most important area on the map. Several new setups will be available on new maps, especially the larger ones, and Chamber is going to be much more prevalent in the meta. Onto the tier list now, and if you want the full versions for free, you can find them on my Patreon. Make sure you read the second page so you know what all the icons mean, alright? But just before we get into Ascent, I do have to let you know that this will be the last tier list on the Valorant Kitchen YouTube channel. But don't worry, I'm still going to be making tier list videos. It's just that Skill-Capped has hired me to overhaul their YouTube channel for Valorant. So just imagine all the Valorant Kitchen content you've come to love, guides, tier lists, and more, just 10 times better. The videos are going to be bigger and better, more so than what I can achieve as a solo creator. Skill-Capped is going to get a whole fresh new look and a whole fresh new set of content. The Valorant Kitchen will still be around, especially the Patreon. So the playbooks aren't going anywhere, but my main focus is going to be making the best Valorant content on YouTube with Skill-Capped. So head over to Skill-Capped Valorant and subscribe for the fresh new content that we're going to be serving up. Okay, into the tier list now. Starting with Ascent, and Jett is of course still the meta pick. She's the only agent that can really force a dive onto site on Ascent, and she backs that up by being a massive op threat on defense. Waylay is great on the defense side of Ascent, being able to pop refract and take those early duels, but on attack side, without that Jett smoke cover, it's a big difference in how you can entry site safely. Yori's the go-to pick for double Senti comps where he can play a flash initiator hybrid, or as the second duelist supporting Jett, but he's really struggling as a solo duelist. He's fantastic on the defense side, being able to rotate and play strong side on both sides, but on attack, he's just too exposed to entry by himself. Phoenix is amazing as your second duelist because he can flash and provide cover with his blaze wall for your primary duelist, and on defense, plays like a controller hybrid with his molly and wall for stalls. Your initiator pick, Sova is still sitting pretty as that controlling info initiator. Even despite the wall change from a few patches ago, he's still finding a place defending B main. If you know a KO main, you can team up and dominate the map with the standard meta. If Sova's not your vibe, there's lots of other initiators to choose from on Ascent. The most important things are a way to enter B main and A main by proxy with a dog or drone, plus flashes to make it out the site choke point, and for fighting mid on defense. Skye is the only agent I can recommend as a solo initiator if you don't have flashes on your duelist. Otherwise, if you have a double initiator setup, Fade, Teo, Breach, KO are all great pairings. For controllers, you'll see a lot of Omen plays. There's a lot of great lines for your Paranoia. There's a good TP in A main for both sides. And when anchoring A, you can smoke Paranoia and escape site with TP if you need to. And interestingly enough, Omen's smoke and TP entries are the best replacement for Jett's entries on Ascent. He arguably does a better job than any of the duelists aside from Jett. But someone you absolutely need to be considering is Astra. She can take control of A and B main by herself on attack, and defensively can put 2 stars in each main while keeping 1 flex, being able to contest main on both sides at once. This is Astra's best map in the pool, but if you are low elo, have a second think. She is very complex. Clove benefits from the small size of Ascent, so their positioning isn't as restricted on defense. Their metal is great for denying rushes and spamming down, and a natural aggressive style is great for contesting mains. But with the shortest smoke duration in the game amongst controllers, it does make execing on site a bit of a pinch. If you are mid to low elo, you can keep it simple and just play Brim. The long duration of his smokes is very punishing for teams who are slow to rotate or don't rotate at all. Because of Ascent's small size, he's comfortable smoking across the map from anywhere, and you can often get away with using only 1 smoke on sites thanks to the doors or via pushing mid, making his lack of rechargeable smokes less of a factor. The chamber buffs won't have that much impact on Ascent. Even at his peak, people were still playing Killjoy over him, but Chamber Vice is a pairing that didn't exist back in Chamber's prime, and Fnatic is performing really well with it, so you might have some success with it in ranked as well. But as a solo Senti, what you care about is stall. Stall is the #1 priority, and being able to play across 2 lanes really helps as well. For Senties, I still think KJ is far and away the best Sentinel on this map. You have so many flexible setup options for anchoring A or B, and Ascent is small enough with particular util placements you can contain 3 lanes by yourself with turret, alarm bot, and playing in a 3rd lane. Vice brings a nice dynamic playstyle where you can play heavy stall, you can play traps with your flash and wall, you can get aggressive and use your flash to support, or you can play for long stall with your vines, even spreading them across 2 lanes. Playing double Senti is doing numbers on Ascent as well. Deadlock is a great option for helping bring some initiation util to your site XX on attack. If you have someone with mollies or long stall, Deadlock is a great pairing with them. And if you have a more aggressive primary sentinel, Sage is a great pairing as the secondary sentinel, bringing lots of long stall. Sage will stop being good when players start to realize that pushing through her wall and slows is a bad idea. Even then, wall in the post plant or cheesy walls like this one in B main are great for free kills. Second course is Bind. Raze has been a great pick on Bind since its inception. One of the reasons for that being because there's 2 lanes for each site, Raze has the ability to safely clear for herself, meaning your initiator can push one of the other lanes instead of having to clear for your duelist. She's fantastic at taking hookah and lamps, which are both very important points to take. And the flexibility of entry points you get from her satchels on site is fantastic. If you want to play mind games with your opponent, pick Yoru on Bind. You can make your opponent's minds melt with all the different combinations and falsehoods you can do by playing with the teleporters. But it's not just that, he's the only one that can rotate fast the opposite way that the teleporters go. ISO brings unique strengths to the duelist class thanks to the linear nature of how you scale on Bind. Both undercut and contingency make pushing a breeze. And with the expected uprise of chamber, you'll be a natural counter. Even though Waylay is one of the best at abusing teleporters by having global presence and being able to refract back to her original position, her reliance on support puts her a step behind agents like Raze, who can self-sufficiently clear a lane by themselves, meaning you're much more restricted in your options on attack. Sky's kit fits too incredibly well on Bind, and especially if your team insta-locks no-flash duelists, Skye is by far and away the best answer. Her flash is great for fighting and clearing lanes, and also those pop flashes for sight are super important. And Trailblazer is able to clear lanes completely for you at lightning speed. It's pretty high value to have a flash to fight B long with such a long skinny lane, and you can use your util through the teleporter to clear showers and outside showers. Sky's Hill is very often high value on Bind because of the amount of chip damage thanks to the meta revolving around Raze, Brimstone, and lots of mollies. And due to the lack of mid on Bind, there's a nice trick that you can do with Sky's ult where you stand in mid link and pop your ult and you'll know exactly which side is weak every time. Fade and Gecko round out our holy trinity of initiators for Bind. If you have a flash duelist, go ahead and run these guys solo. Otherwise, they pair great together. They have a lot of similarities, but that actually gives them great synergy and combo potential. Dizzy plus Haunt for entry makes it hard to shoot both. Mosh Pit plus Seize is a great kill combo. And you can snowball momentum with Prowlers and Wingman. Gecko obviously has the unique ability of planting and diffusing with Wingman, which is incredibly good on Bind because the default plants are easily targetable from off-site. And when you're bursting onto site, having Gecko's extra gun helps you secure the site and save time from planting quickly, and that can often be the difference between whether or not a defense fast floods back on you in time or you get it down. There's just something satisfying about playing Brim, especially when he's good on the map. Bind has no true mid, which means Brim's weaknesses don't get exposed and it's only his strengths on show. Extra long duration on his smokes, and having 3 of them makes a huge difference. It means you can just be long exec whenever you don't want to go hookah, like on an anti-eco. Motley is great for securing rounds, but it's also one of the best stalls for stopping A rushes. Cypher is outperforming every other Sentinel right now, even though they are good. He's almost sitting in like an S+ kind of tier. He just has so much versatility. Plus, when on attack, he can clear for himself with his camera, making it very valuable. And those split pushes are key to success on Bind. Chamber will feel great on Bind again. On attack side, trip here on the stairs and it'll cover flank no matter where you are. And on defense, you can hold one lane with your op and then have your trip on the other. And if you have to TP, your trip still stays up, letting you know if someone's lurking or rotating. This is Deadlock's best map. Just look at this sensor. You have to trigger it if you're coming out of hookah on an exec, but lurkers can silently drop through here though. You've been warned, okay? Plus, you have GravNet to be able to contest early space and fight down a lane. You can also throw it through teleporter for surprise plays and plenty of value spots for your wall. Trying to get through a barrier mesh plus 2 sonic sensors is pretty hard to do in the post plant, and really valuable space you can try and lock down is elbow on B site and lamps on A site. I'm very happy to report that my read of the Corrode meta was pretty much spot on after seeing it play out over the last patch. And there's one thing that surprised me that I was not expecting at all. For duelists, Neon and Yoru are the two powerhouses. Neon's more straightforward, and getting A-link control with her running speed is crucial. Also, having her wall for across yard makes execing A so much easier. This is probably a more complex map for Yoru, so if you're a Yoru main and Yoru master, you'll see a lot of success here, but otherwise you're going to just be dragging his win rate down. With the complete lack of dive needed for A site, ISO, Reyna, and Phoenix are all enjoying Corrode. ISO and Phoenix bring lots more utility by foregoing dive. Raze is incredible for both extremities of the map, being able to clear out pocket and elbow by yourself, and being able to dive through the choke on B site, either shallow or deep dives, both are great. Especially when you combine with a nade in the sky to break trips, it becomes a lot easier to exec on B site. So Raze is also remaining at 3 stars. For initiators, I did misjudge one character, and that is Skye. Particularly in lower elo, Skye is seeing a lot of success, and that's because she's got a straightforward kit that clears angles fast. You can take priority in mid with Trailblazer, Flash is an easy solution for yard and B-site entry, and you can heal off all of that chip damage from getting spammed through walls. I promise you, people are sleeping on Teo. He is great on this map where you don't necessarily need a flash. The drone is amazing. Salvos are incredible for not only post-plant, but for clearing out those pockets of space which make those defender strongholds important. As a second initiator, he might be one of the best agents on the map, but as a solo initiator, like most maps, he's gonna lack some tools, though it is serviceable on Corrode. Now, if you've played Corrode, you're probably aware that it is paper thin. A site is completely enclosed, and to compensate, the walls are penetrable with heavy weapons. This also applies to B site and mid, although it is less prominent. Therefore, naturally, Sova and Fade will have an edge over other initiators. Their ability to scan for wall bangs with heavy pen weapons is a huge deal. They can also both clear pockets of space with Cs and shock darts, and the value that you get out of prowlers with the amount of tight corners that you can clear is just ludicrous. The other initiator who fills this criteria very well is Gecko. Moshpit goes hard in some of the bigger pockets of space, and you can constantly clear and re-clear with Dizzy and Wingman as a duo. A-site is very much a 2 to 3 stage assault, allowing you to push, collect your little bros, and then use them again in phase 2, phase 3 as you complete the site take. Time for the controllers on Corrode, one of which really surprised me. Like most maps, Clove and Omen's pick rates are super high. Clove's obviously just a very popular ranked character because of their self-heal, but their weaknesses aren't as prevalent on Corrode. Because of the heavy importance of mid, Clove is a great agent to fight mid early. They can smoke bottom mid and push to half wall, and then smoke either site as needed. And if you die fighting, you still got a lot of really good smokes that you can do. The A short plant and pretty much anywhere on B, including B main, heaven, and default. That's really important on Corrode because there's a lot of offsite post spam. Omen has a lot of versatility on Corrode, but one of the highest value pieces of utility in the game is Paranoia down B main on defense. For your secondary controllers, even though I put Viper at 3 stars as a second controller, she's still performing better than I would have expected. I knew she was going to dominate the pro scene, but in ranked, I didn't expect her numbers to be so good. But the one thing that surprised me is Harbor. When Corrode released, I analyzed every agent in depth on the map and made a 1-pager guide for them. You can find it on my Patreon if you like. So I felt like I had a really good understanding of all the agents, and so far I had. But there was a few things that I missed on Harbor, and it wasn't until I was checking some data for this tier list that I noticed there's some very high performing Harbor players in high elo. It's only a small sample size, but it stood out to me immediately because on every other map in the game, Harbor is performing abysmally. Even on Corrode, for the masses, he's performing like you would expect. But there is someone or a few people in high elo who have figured out the tricks for Harbor on Corrode. So I went back into the kitchen to see what I could cook up with some further testing. One thing I wrote off was his mid control. And that's because if you cascade top mid, it doesn't really do anything because defenders can still get to half wall, and you have to deal with the A-link peak along the way. But what if we dealt with A-link instead? I was finding a lot of success using Cascade to block the A-link peak and take control of Rooster. And you could use Tidal Wall instead to block both entrances, which reminded me of Leviathan's mid-harbor wall on Abyss. Because of the way this wall is structured, it doesn't matter if defenders make it out to half wall, it slices it in a way that's favorable for us. And Harbor shines with mid control. You can use Cascade and Tidal Wall to push for splitting or retaking both sites. One of Harbor's biggest weaknesses is how telegraphed he is. His cascades give away a lot of positioning, but by playing for mid control, you don't give as much away. And then when you do want to hit site, Harbor excels at that. A simple straight wall like the standard Viper wall allows you to scale up elbow and blocks off tank for you as well. And that straight line block feels a lot nicer than a dome smoke. And if you're in a stack, you can use this wall variation to create split pushes where you can full hit either side of A. Standard ranked teammates will definitely get confused. Harbor also has the advantage of being able to smoke all 3 defender entrances on B site. It's a pretty technical and difficult wall to throw consistently, so if you're in a rush, you can just smoke off B link and heaven, then turn your wall into the back of elbow and use cascade to help your team scale up through it. And that's not even close to the best part. Cove can help you scale out as an anti-spam tool and get this broken front of sight plant. Follow it with cascade into hut and you can protect yourself to get to a better spot. Same logic applies to A, where you can get the open plant, which has an 83% win rate conversion in Radiant. Oh, and his ult, which is only 7 pips, covers all of A and B site. This is as close to a free round as you can get, because not only is it a stun, it's info about all of these pockets of space for one ability. This is all just from my limited testing though. If you're one of the Radiant or Immortal players or even Ascendant players that are having success with Harbor, please get in touch. I would love to learn about what's working for you, and if your ideas are similar to what I've presented, or if there's things that I'm missing. For Sentinels, there's one major player. It's Cypher, with a huge popularity and a solid win rate. Cypher's trip variety and cam placements on defense, whilst very good, I'm finding more of his value to be on attack, where he can use his cages and cam to help take mid, and being able to trip both extremities while you work mid, or even as you push through mid, you can leave a trip behind you to deal with the mid rotates. But people are sleeping on Vice. Hardly anyone is picking her, and I don't know why. Her win rate is the best of all Sentinels. Vice does the best job of locking down B. You can leave her alone there. It's so hard to get through her wall and all the thorns, and your teammates can focus on mid and A. But if you're struggling for A, Vice's Rose is incredible for flashing A yard as well. Haven, the most loved map in the game, I reckon, because of its agent diversity. Neon is consistently one of the best duelists on Haven. Her wall helps you slice up sight, and her sprint lets you burst down those long lanes. On defense, play towards B a lot so you can fast rotate to both sites. Haven is a sniper's paradise with its long sight lines and lots of vertical positions to keep your opponents guessing to where you're peeking from. Nobody can take better advantage of that than Jett. For your initiators, the question you need to ask is, how do they help you get A lobby control, and everything else is secondary? Sova and Breach are the traditional pairing for that, but there's lots of ways to skin a cat. Fade, Gecko, and Sky are also great options on Haven. They have abilities that can affect open spaces and clear ops. Speaking of controlling A lobby, if you want to focus on that, Astra is a great way to start. She also really ramps up your C execs, forcing your opponents to retake. But the best controller on Haven is Omen. He can abuse the verticality. His paranoia gets massive value. He rewards creativity, playing in turtle smokes, clutching rounds with your ult, and taking unexpected pathings.
Planted.
If you want to turn off your brain and run it down, you can pick Clove. You'll do fine. It can be limiting on defense playing towards mid, but someone's got to play the fast rotator role anyway. Cypher and Killjoy are the meta Sentinels. 5 lanes on Haven, lots of spread coverage is required, and they're the best 2 for that. They both also have access to early info on mid on attack. Both KJ and Cypher tend to play more towards C, but if you want to play more towards A, Chamber and Vice are good options. Vice's kit is more limited on Haven, but she's great for anchoring A. So if you find that's often a pain point in your games, she could be a good way to solve it. And if you're good with the op, this is one of the best maps to abuse it. With Chamber being unshackled, you can peek those extremities and push flank with no worries. Sage can wall off very narrow choke points and make it impossible to get through without burning through all of your bullets. This is especially punishing in low elo, where teams are slow to rotate and less likely to play off of each other's lurkers because you don't have a trip. But in mid to high elo, Sage is going to be best as that second sentinel role. In a game of millimeters and milliseconds, any advantage you can get matters. If you want to perform at your maximum potential, then you need to be using the best equipment and settings possible. And that's why over 400 Valorant pros use the Zowie monitor. It's also why the Zowie XL2566X Plus is the official monitor for VCT Pacific in 2025. And is used in VCT Americas, VCT CN, and remember the controversy surrounding VCT EMEA's computer performance? Well, they not only upgraded the PCs, they upgraded to Zowie monitors as well. So what makes them so good? And is the difference really that noticeable? Or is it all just marketing? Well, Zowie was kind enough to send me their new XL2566X Plus from their new X Plus range of monitors. And boy, oh boy, I didn't think before trying this that the difference would be so noticeable. Zowie is all gas, no brakes when it comes to performance. The X Plus range features the new Fast TN panel and Diac 2 technology. All you need to know is that the new Fast TN panel panel is the fastest panel on the market, and Zowie's Diag 2 technology helps reduce motion blur. For competitive fast-moving games like Valorant, you care about one thing: precision. And for that, you need clarity. You get that from a high refresh rate, low response time, and low motion blur. And that's what a Zowie monitor gives you. And I find it so much easier to track people now, even when there's fast-moving abilities and util blowing up everywhere. Especially with the op, I'm finding myself hitting shots that I normally wouldn't. And the big reason for this is because of the clarity. I feel my target acquisition has gotten much faster. One thing that you get with your Zowie monitor is this switch, which allows you to switch color modes incredibly fast. Just the press of a button for 3 pre-saved modes. It's so nice to have it so simple to switch between modes when I'm changing from working to gaming. You can even set it up to auto switch between modes when you change games. And if you don't know where to start with settings, you can head over to prosettings.net and find your favorite player settings and copy theirs. I've been trying out Patman's settings and have been absolutely fragging out. Just keep in mind, I'm an old AF coach, not a player. So just imagine what you could do with the Zowie X Plus series monitor. Thank you to Zowie for sponsoring this video. You can find a link to their website in the description. Now moving over to Icebox, which will be rotated out in a couple of patches time. And the thing about Icebox is because it's so open, you would think it would be a duelist paradise. But paradoxically, the opposite occurs. And this is the worst performing map for duelists in the pool. You're better off not running a duelist unless you're running Jet. Because it's so open, the need for diving and breaking choke points is far less. But Jet's an exception to the rule because of how much freedom it gives her to play with. Jet is so much better than all the other duelists on Icebox right now. So if you're not running Jet, you want more utility that can support the team. This is still Reyna's best map where you can get the most value out of Leah even post the nerf. It's great for supporting Jet as she jumps around in the open and provides pseudo cover for her. And you can play in aggressive off angles, almost guaranteeing kills and using your dismiss to get out safely. Do not play Waylay as a solo duelist, but do play her as a secondary duelist. Her performance goes up when paired with her favorite dive buddies Jet and Neon, or with Reyna, who can use Leah to help cover her dive. When paired with Sova, Viper, and Killjoy, it's one of the highest performing comps in the game. Unless you pick Sova or Gecko, you're pretty much trolling. Sova's Recon is in a class of its own for detecting early A aggro. Followed up with Drone for clearing A site is a very common standard practice. And Drone is unmatched for clearing B main because you can fly up over the middle box. You can see both sides of B main clearing the whole thing. Gecko is easily the second best initiator on Icebox. What he lacks in info gathering and control compared to Sova, he makes up for by helping you plant the spike, which is the hardest thing to do on Icebox. Send Wingman out and play to protect him as you force that spike down, then set yourself up for the post plant. If you're stuck having to fill and you're not comfortable with Sova or Gecko, Fade and Sky are okay alternatives that are easier to pick up and just throw your util around to clear things. Just avoid Teo, KO, and Breach. Viper is the truth on Icebox. There's a reason that her pick rate goes from 16% in Iron all the way to 88% in Radiant. You can watch my Viper Ultimate Icebox guide to learn how to play her properly and abuse her brokenness on Icebox while it's still in the map pool. If you don't know how to play her properly, she will feel bad. There's specific things that make her broken on Icebox. You need to learn what they are. Like this wall and why it's bad. If you know what you're doing on Viper, you'd be able to tell me why I shouldn't even be able to be here and get this triple kill.
Valid exchange.
Spike down B.
As directed.
One enemy remaining.
And for Sentinels, boy oh boy, is this a huge buff for Chamber. I'm glad Icebox won't be sticking around for much longer because of this. Unrestricted trip range means you can trip kitchen and play anywhere. You can abuse verticality on defense. Whilst your trip is a bit fragile on attack, pair yourself up with a Killjoy, and instead you can use your trip to aggressively clear corners. For Sentinels, Sage has the best plant installation on both sites, but especially B, where sometimes you'll just lose if you don't have Sage, Harbor, or Gecko to help plant. She is always going to be good on this map. She's much more of a flex Sentinel, especially when you're using your wall to take fights like this. Killjoy still has the best flank watch for both mid on defense. She's the only one that can cover it fully, as well as being the most reliable flank watch on attack as well. And her ults are incredible on both sides, attack and defense. All right, it's time for Lotus. And listen here, you little gremlins. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this whole video, it's that you shouldn't be scared to push on defense. In fact, it's the standard thing to do on Lotus A. And it's why Raze and Neon are consistently the best performing duelists on Lotus, helping you establish map control so you can fortify the rest of the map. And the fact that they're their own natural counters for the A fight helps too. After Reyna's nerfs to Lear last patch, ISO now sits comfortably as the top rifling non-dive duelist on Lotus, but he's best in the secondary duelist role so you can still bring dive for C site. If you want a really nice double dive duelist pairing, Yoru can work really well with both Raze and Neon. Gate Crash is a great way to cross to rubble, as well as crossing the gap to enter C site. And with Vice being the most popular sentinel on Lotus in high elo right now, Yoru is a great counter pick to bring. Breach is still a solid pick in lower elos, but as you climb the ranks, he gets less and less value because players get better at dodging his slow util. And the nerf from a couple of patches ago makes it a lot easier to dodge that A main stun. Lotus is Fade's best map, and that's saying something for an agent who's very versatile right now. Seize and Haunt are both great for contesting A, and 2 Prowlers are really handy for clearing those tight spaces near the middle of the map. She's one of the best abusers of the Odin, which is really strong on Lotus. Stay tuned for an upcoming video on that. Sticking strong with the no solo 3-star controller on Lotus, everyone has their issues. But paired together, Viper and Clove create a perfect storm of utility that is perfect for fighting the map, especially in a ranked environment. So if you want to play this broken combo with your duo, have someone lock in Clove and the other person hover a duelist. Then at the last minute, switch to Viper once everything else has been locked in. As for solo controllers, Omen does bring a lot of what you want for Lotus. His TP is great for opening up the rubble fight, especially if you have baiting duelists who are too scared to take the first engagement. Paranoia is also great for securing rubble early on defense. There are other higher value spots for Paranoia on the map, but a lot of those are late round retake situations where you don't want to risk it in ranked, so just get the value early. When Omen used to have access to one-ways on random bits of geometry, he was a complete package, but now he doesn't stand out as much versus other controllers. Astra is a very underutilized pick on Lotus, mainly because it's so difficult to play and is reliant on a certain level of coordination. But if you have a 3-stack or more, you can be contesting A while one-waying C while having a smoke for B just in case. It is very difficult to play Astra, so expect losses before the wins start to roll in. Chamber was already a very popular pick on Lotus and was performing pretty well. With the buff, he's now got complete freedom to work the map. You can completely cover flank in spawn whilst being able to push deep lurks on both C and A, or even just scaling up with your team. Deadlock is an incredible flex pick. You can use GravNet to stop attackers running out and then throw your wall to stop them from jumping on top of rock. Spam anyone trying to break it. If I told you could do all of this whilst also placing a stun on C at the start of the round. And if they don't need you at A, you've got lots of options for anchoring C with different stun and wall setups. But if you want the ultimate C anchor, Vice is your girl. Having to push through thorns once you've already committed to a C hit is absolutely deadly. Plus, you're going to get flashed on sight, and you even have to contend with fighting versus the flash in mound. And that flash is a great info cycle. You can detect any lurkers in mound or teams rotating back towards C to give an early warning for your team to rotate. And if you like anchoring C but want to be a bit more broad in your map control and you have a good understanding of timings and B main lurks, Killjoy is the way to go. It's very easy to frustrate your opponents and get inside their head rent-free when playing around your turret on attack in B main. There's a plethora of ways for you to fight and only limited options for the defense, who will become increasingly frustrated and never learn their lesson. Finally, we come to the last map, Sunset. And in a weird way, Sunset B site plays a lot like AR. You've got the pocket on one side, then you've got a split angle with some verticality on the opposite, which is why Phoenix and Neon also excel here. As long as you can break Cypher trips, Neon can get to backside with an isolated, stunned opponent very easily. The same logic applies to A main, where you can slice the space to get up close and pressure elbow. While Phoenix's wall can slice the map in a similar way, it's a much more methodical approach where you're working your way up through key choke points. Raze is a good all-round pick. She can play with verticality, she can dive out B, she can clear the angles on A. And of all places, Waylay has found a home in the Sunset meta. Nobody could have predicted that, could they? Maybe I could have if you'd been paying attention to my tier lists. Sunset Waylay has been my sleeper pick since her release, and the buffs have pushed her into an insanely strong spot. She pairs incredibly well with both Neon and Phoenix, making the most out of their walls, and there's so dang many high-value saturated lineups. It's actually ridiculous. It's a mixed bag for initiators, and the best initiator is often very dependent on which duelists you have in your team. For Neon and Jet, Server is great to help support their dive by shocking util, plus the recon synergy through their smokes. If you have Raze, you might want to pick up Fade for natural C's nade combos. Gecko is a solid all-round pick, especially if your duelist doesn't have a flash. You can get a constant stream of information on A, and Wingman is great for getting that plant down on B. And Breach is still faring decently well thanks to his ability to control the A and B main fights. He's going to be best as a secondary initiator to support agents like Neon, but if you have a Raze, Breach can do just fine solo in most ranks. For controllers, Clove stands out above the rest. Sunset is nice and small so they can smoke across the whole map. You can be quite aggressive down mid without fear of giving up your team's smokes, which are so crucial on Sunset for covering your diffuser from spam in the post plant. Omen's Paranoia is very similar in function to Breach's stun, being able to take controls, except it's a lot more expensive. And that's where a lot of his value comes from here. His smokes are nothing special. There's no insane TPs, but there are a couple of good vertical spots to play with. Sunset continues to be one of Brimstone's best maps behind Bind. Stim Beacon is great for pushing up A with unexpected pace, and the extra smoke duration helps out when you haven't got your smoke timings down pat and do them a little bit too early. And Incendiary can come in clutch in the post plant thanks to the nice open spaces. For Sentinels, this is another map where the chamber buffs are huge. Being able to keep your trip up in top mid while you work the extremities and take deep flanks, or trip the opposite main while you work mid on attack, is undoubtedly massive. It'll allow you to play a faster rotate and get into fights when it matters most, rather than waiting in the range of your trip to keep it up in case there's a lurker. Paper X have been believers in Sage from the beginning and used this sick wall to win Masters Toronto.
Very fast play indeed. That's sick. And the wall up. None the bloody wiser.
A wall really helps solidify those post plants, changing the dynamics of the sites, which are quite awkward to play. Her slows are a fantastic control tool in A main, and there's some cheeky peeky walls that you can do as well, including this peek from elbow window, which is generally good for a kill once per game. It has the added benefit of blocking off elbow anyway. Vice and Cypher, the two most picked Sentinels, they bring the most balanced approach to the map. Cypher being able to spread across more, get information. You can play with some nice kill trips on site as well, whereas Vice is primarily going to be your B site anchor. That wall is so hard to get through on B, especially with the thorns and flash behind it. There's some great lineups to learn on attack as well, which help prevent floods from the defenders. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, you might want to check out our other video guides on this channel or the Patreon content, and let me know below what agent, map, comp, game concept you would like to see a guide for next.